As hard as it is when you worry about what others think, is what you think about yourself. I think
Mhm.
that's really even more difficult. You can shut the door and leave people out, but you can't shut that brain down sometimes. That think of it as a right brain bully and just said, "Hush up! I'm going to try this, whether I'm good or not,
Yeah.
and see if you can find your joy in it," because it does. That they releases serotonin, so even just doing it brings joy into your life.
Welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm Brittany Cates, career coach and fellow career shifter, here to help you leave unfulfilling work behind. Every Thursday, I share stories, strategies, and confidence boosting insights to help you gain clarity, take action, and create a career you love. Let's shift your day job together. What if creativity was the key to finding clarity and direction towards your new career? Today's guest, Karen DeLoach, knows firsthand how embracing creativity can lead to reinvention. She's an artist, mentor, author, and creativity specialist who helps people use art as a tool for self discovery through her program, Art as Self Therapy Wellness Through Creativity. With a BFA in painting and theater, an MA in ceramics, and a film production certificate, Karen built a career in art education, even writing her own textbooks. But when the world shifted online in 2021, she took a bold step into digital entrepreneurship, proving that career pivots and reinvention are always possible, no matter your stage in life. In this episode, we explore how creativity can help you navigate career transitions, uncover new possibilities, and step into your next chapter with confidence. So please join me in welcoming Karen DeLoach to the podcast. Hi, Karen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. What a great point of view you're bringing to the table with your podcast. I love it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited to hear about your journey with being an artist. I'm an artist as well. And so I just love that connection that I feel to you already. But I appreciate you being here and would love to hear your story of how your career started and how it's evolved to where it is today.
Thank you. Yeah, being an artist, you're always wondering how you're going to support yourself, especially when you're young and you don't have the confidence maybe to really
Mm.
believe you're good enough. And I had the experience in college. I could draw when I went to college. I had really good drawing instruction and loved theater. So I went to a liberal arts college where I could do it all. I could do sports, I could do theater, and I could do art. And I just had a blast and found out that my drawing skills really held me in good stead until we got to painting. My painting professors, all raised in the abstract expressionist era, hated my paintings. They used four-letter words to describe my paintings, and
Wow.
I was completely discouraged. They convinced me I was a three-dimensional artist that I could not paint because I liked painting what I saw. I liked painting people, portraits, landscapes. I love nature. I love what's around me, and I wanted to represent it. Just had a passion for that. And they were like, "Pfft, you don't need art school if you're just gonna do portraits, go sit on street corners." So anyway, I got my master's in sculpture and ceramics. Love it, still teach it. But there was still in me that drive to paint and but there was that voice that I call it the left brain bully saying, "You just can't." And every time I'd try, I'd pick it up, I'd reach that point where my skill level wasn't there, and I'd give up until I had just piles of unfinished paintings. Maybe you've experienced this as an artist, I don't know. But that voice inside, you're just
Mm.
proving those professors right. They knew what they were talking about. They're just saving the world from bad painters. Until I got a mentor. Okay. Bob Brown had been to the Art Institute of Chicago back in the day when they taught skills. He taught me how to paint. Well, it changed my life. I could finally develop the skills I needed to do the representational artwork that I really wanted and had a passion for.
Mm.
I also changed me as an art teacher because I teach those fundamentals. So I have a how to draw book, how to paint book, and I use them so that my students then can do whatever work they want to do when you've got the skills in place. And I was
Mhm.
able to shut up that left brain. Of course, at the time, I didn't understand about left brain, right
Yeah.
brain. We all had to learn, well, what is it? We got to have our brain for creativity. So as I saw students working through issues, young and old, I've had all ages. We homeschooled for 30 years, so I had lots of experience with different ages, different disabilities, children with mental disabilities or autism or physical disabilities, dyslexia, thriving in the arts. They could get success where maybe they didn't have success in some academics, but they could succeed visually in the arts. And that just changed their lives, gave them the confidence to do what they needed to do in the other arenas. So I started studying and researching, and this kind of shifted my thinking about the arts, not just from a personal level and representational art as a joy to do myself, but seeing it ignite that creative drive in others. I have an online art group. Of course, during the pandemic, we all went online, didn't we?
Yeah.
So this old teacher, our teacher, became an online entrepreneur, and that's why I love your whole take of shifting careers. I'm in my 70s, and I'm just saying that in case you do have any older listeners. It's not too late. Even those of you that are younger that feel like, "Oh, I didn't study that. I didn't." I'm telling you, just as Brittany is teaching you about this possibility of having a shift in your career, in your life, it's possible, even for us old timers, us baby boomers. So we can learn. We're educable, right? We got enough degrees to know we can learn, and we can learn about what it takes to be an online entrepreneur. So I've spent the last 4 years doing art, learning how to do art through Zoom classes, even at the college. I've been teaching at the college for about 9 years, and we all went online, right? Learning how to do it with ebooks. So I made an ebook textbook with lots of pictures. I'm in South Carolina where we have rural students that don't have opportunities or haven't experienced going to museums or galleries or really seeing a lot of art. So I'm like, this book's going to have a lot of pictures. So even if they don't read it, they're going to get exposed to a lot of variety. And anyway, I love stirring up the creative in others. And I had an experience where I said, what is my personal superpower? What have I really been created to do? And I heard very strongly, you have the gift of stirring up the creative in others. And
Mm.
that is something that brings me so much joy to see when people discover their own creative giftings. Because we got half a brain, right? Devoted to creativity.
Yeah.
It's not one or the other, it's using them together, building those neural connections, making us more brilliant, our most brilliant selves. So that's been my passion for the last year and a half of art as self-therapy, wellness through creativity. And of course, as a visual artist, that's my focus. But three of my three sons and my husband are all musicians, and they get that same thing to happen through music as I get through the visual arts of writers, gardeners, cooks. There's so many ways that we can, develop our own personal creative giftings, and that's my passion.
Yes, I love that. I was listening to a podcast with Martha Beck. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she just wrote her latest book, and it's about like conquering anxiety, something about anxiety. And she was talking on this podcast about the way that we combat our anxiety is to tap into that right brain creativity. And the more that we use that, the more, like you said, it affects the left brain and it centers us in because we are all creative beings and
Mhm.
we all have something that we can create. And I know a lot of times people are like, oh, I can't draw. Oh, I can't, I'm not an artist. I'm not creative. And yet, no, as human beings, that's what we were created, and that's what we're created to do. And there's so many different ways to look at what being creative is for you. And
That's
so
right.
taking the time in your life to she even said, we often say, "Oh, it's like a side thing, right? Like when I have time, I'll be creative, or when I have time, I'll do the thing that I enjoy doing, like painting or singing or whatever it is." And she's like, "No, we need to center our lives around that first,
That's
and
good.
then that's gonna trickle and affect everything else, and we're gonna be happier, and we're gonna have less anxiety." So that's what it made me think of. It's so in
I
line with what
love
you're
that.
doing.
Yeah, I love that. I'm doing research, and obviously I'm not a scientist, but what the scientists say is based on what I was discovering experientially with myself, my own family, and my students of all ages. And so it was really exciting. All right, here's a study they did, and you'll love this. They studied people who sing in the shower. Now, yeah, a lot of people who won't sing with a microphone will sing in
Yes.
the shower. For me, it's singing in the car when I'm by myself. I love to
Yeah.
sing. are. There you are. You're not thinking about work, solving problems. You're just scrub-a-dub-dubbing, rub-a-dub-dubbing in the tub. When you're washing, you're using your left brain through whenever we hold something or do something with our hands, we're using our left brain, we're scrubbing, and we're singing our favorite song, whatever, just enjoying, which is using our right brain. So we're building these connections, these neural pathways, building new ones, brand new ones. We don't even know it. We're not thinking about it. We're just having a good time. You release serotonin, which is the happiness chemical when you do that. And so here you are, you get out, you're warm and fuzzy, you're drying off, you're feeling good, and something comes to your mind. Now, it could be a problem from work, it could be a relational issue, it could be something that you're working on with your book, or just a title, or something comes to your mind and you don't even realize it's because your brain has been connecting left brain, right brain while you're just enjoying
Mhm.
life and singing along. It's really not as hard as people think. So I love what you said, that you said you wrap your life around the creative and it takes care of the anxiety and stress. It reduces stress. These things the scientists can prove. So, we don't base our life on what the scientists say, but I love that it proves what I was seeing happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that because I think it is a good example of what we talk about when we say go to a new place or have a new experience or remove yourself from the problem that you're trying to figure out, right? Especially when you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you're spinning your wheels and that the science backs it up, right? Because you are actually doing something that's engaging your right brain, whether it's discovering something new in a new town or just being out in nature and naturally just feeling that it absorbing the beauty, right? And or singing in the shower. It's just that's what's going to trigger those thoughts of, "Oh, I could do it this way," or, "Oh, the inspiration comes." So, yes, I think that's great.
Glad you gave that example of going out in nature because one of the things they said is even though we're a Fitbit generation of aerobics, right? Counting our steps, whatever, just taking a stroll has so many benefits for us emotionally, mentally, and physically. Like you said, noticing the sky, noticing the sound of the birds or the crunch of leaves or whatever your environment is experiencing, experience it, even for 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Enjoy it. Maybe take along a sketchbook or take along a journal or a loved one or a pet, but or not, even by yourself, commune in your soul and your spirit with God and or just your surroundings. Enjoy your life, those moments. And it connects left brain, right brain. It's
Mhm.
miraculous. So all you listeners who say, I'm not creative, I'm not an artist, but you have half a brain devoted to creativity. The truth is, everyone is a creative. Like you said, made in our creator's image. So there's something that you love that can do this in your life. It could be cooking, trying
Yeah.
recipes, trying gardening. There's simple things that decorating. My husband's a
Mhm.
decorator. I make things. He's the one that puts them together. He loves,
Yeah.
I never know where the couch is going to be the next day. Okay. So the creative thinking, how about if we did it this way? Or let's have more access to the fireplace here. He's always thinking creatively. That is his bent.
Mhm.
And I love it. I certainly encourage that. So, you listeners, think about what you love. And here's another scientific tip. They say that 5 and 6-year olds, 98% are creative geniuses,
Yeah.
but only 2% of adults. So, where is the disconnect?
Yeah.
We can put all kinds of things, including education systems that negate the right brain. It's hard to test right brain. It's hard, so
Mhm. Mhm.
subjective, but we get discouraged. Things happen to us. Someone says something, and our sensitive right brain, which is very sensitive, shuts down. It doesn't like the criticism, but guess what comes from the left brain? It needs to
Mhm.
operate without that perfectionism, that paralysis or criticism. That's not what the right brain thrives on freedom to try, like you said, new things, new ways of thinking. And so if you think about what did you personally love when you were 5 and 6, it's a key to where your creative gifts lie.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that statistic. Yes, I'm familiar with it. And yeah, tapping into what you loved as a kid is definitely a piece of the puzzle. And as we grow into adults, we move further and further away from that natural instinct of creativity. And it's our job to, when we start feeling lost as an adult, reflect on, okay, when was I most creative? When did I enjoy myself the most? What was I doing? And in going even back that far as a kid, and they're just all clues to help us with figuring out what's really going to bring us purpose and passion into our lives.
That's good, and I'm so glad you mentioned purpose and passion. People my age, we've had careers, we've raised families, we're at a point in our life where we really have more freedom in some sense to be creative in ways that we weren't able to for other reasons maybe, or we put other people's needs ahead of our own, and we all have people in our lives that we care for, that we work with, but that doesn't mean we have to negate our own personal creative drives and purpose, because there is such a joy in it, and even if it's completely private, you never let anybody read your journals, or you never let anybody hear your poetry, there is still a joy in putting these things together just for yourself, and taking it to the next level, sharing with somebody is good too. That's not the most important part. The most important part is do it. I love to dance. I have a church that loves dancing. I can't hop like I used to, but I took line dancing with a friend last semester in the fall, and it was so fun because it's just listening to the music and moving with a bunch of ladies of all ages, thump thump with our boots. It was so fun. It didn't matter how good or bad it is, and that's the cool thing is the quality isn't the point when you're being creative. Quality, of course, we all want to strive for excellence, which is not the same as perfectionism, which can paralyze us. It's more of just we want to get better at it and learn. There's so many ways to do that now. We all have the internet. We all have ways that we can continue to get better and strive for that excellence. But it's not, doesn't mean you have to be naturally gifted. Just enjoy it. Just
Yeah.
something you love to do.
Yes, and it takes me back to it reminds me of the fact that we're always so worried about what other people are thinking of us, and so when we're in a new situation and maybe we're not doing it, perfectly, or we don't have that excellence piece because it's brand new to us, right? We often are, like, looking around, "Oh, what are people thinking?" Or, "Am I being judged?" And I think that's part of where it comes like you mentioned earlier, the criticism piece, right? We're just so worried about it, but if you can work on letting go of that control that you feel by wondering what other people are thinking about you and just go with the flow and enjoy yourself and realize I think in the process you realize, oh, everyone else is doing this too, right? Like she's not that good. It doesn't matter. She looks like she's having the time of her life. But let's just all enjoy ourselves. And because you're then exuding that joy and that confidence, people are not judging you, they're drawn to you, and they wanna be doing it with you, like the dancing. So
It's true. It's so true. And like I said, I started last year. I started this group, art group. We meet 3 times a month online, and it's all ages. It's different ages, and I teach a lesson. We do something together, an exercise together, and then I give some homework till the next time we meet. And it's so fun to see people who, like you said, had laid this down for a long time. Because I think as hard as it is when you worry about what others think, is what you think about yourself. I think
Mhm.
that's really even more difficult. You can shut the door and leave people out, but you can't shut that brain down sometimes that think of it as a right brain bully and just said, hush up, I'm going to try this, whether I'm good or not,
Yeah.
and see if you can find your joy in it because it does that. They release the serotonin. So even just doing it brings joy into your life. And if you are suffering from anxiety and stress and just these really negative thoughts and feelings, put on some music and spin. Just whatever it is that you remember feeling joy doing. Now, I was one of those kindergartners that had a story to tell, and we were all going to be part of a big drama. Okay, these monkey bars are is a spaceship, and you're an astronaut, and the aliens are just whatever it was. I put my classmates in these stories, and I was directing it. So I didn't think about I did theater. Theater was my minor. I've loved stage work, but I would we were my husband and I had a Bible study with these college kids, and they were like, "Now it's all about film. It's all about visual arts." So in my 50s, I went back to school, for 4 years, t and took every film class that there was,
Mm,
and got a certificate in film direction, and I've gotten to teach since then, young people, teaching them about filmmaking because it uses so many different gifts to make a movie, and I was in the cusp in the early 2000s from film to digital filmmaking. Now we
wow.
all have these handheld cameras, video recorders, we can all be creative, and I have grandchildren, so I have so much fun creating little movies
Mhm,
grandchildren. You have stories to tell. I got to
mhm,
go to Uganda a couple years ago and met these rescued youths. This church had taken in these kids from the street. They have stories you don't even want to think about what they've been.
mhm,
And they have so much light and life in them, but they want to tell stories. So we have a film school. We've already produced 3 films. We meet as they can get internet week by week. I'm in America, they're in Uganda, but we have created 3 films, and I was concerned. I'm like, I've only learned Western filmmaking. How they're gonna have their
mhm,
own aesthetic if being from Africa." It I just felt the peace. Just teach them the steps and what it takes and the jobs and all the different things. I did that. They interpret it completely to be their own, and it makes me so happy to see them not just break away from the life and the turmoil and the trauma they've experienced, but also now to have this creative outlet to express themselves as writers or actors or filmmakers or the lighting or the sound or editing. There's so many jobs when you do
yeah.
filmmaking. So anyway, that's just a story that is a passion project that I see working what we're talking about working in these young people's lives.
It takes me back to what you were saying about how you were taught the skills and that gave you the foundation to then open up and be your own artist. Like embrace what you bring to the table. And it made me think when you're saying it and talking about this example of how you taught these kids these skills, but then they took it and interpreted it in their own way and they ran with it. And it's having that foundation of this is what I know how to do, or this is how to do the thing, but how that gives you so much more freedom to then explore and push boundaries and do it your own way. So,
I know, and it's true, and, that is a joy to do it yourself and to see it in others that you care about, and if you have a family, if you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, you get to work with these young people, and you have an opportunity to encourage them with these things we're talking about today, that we're gonna help them express their creativity, even with a coloring book or a sketchbook or I give all my nieces, nephews, great nieces, great nephews, art supplies, and some of them take my classes online. So it's passing on that joy and being careful with your words that you're not correcting when I say, okay, this is great, but how about if you try this? Look at this can improve a way to say things that will help them develop skills without it being critical. The things that hurt people and hurt their soul, hurt their right brain is one person said in kindergarten, the teacher tore up her paper in front of the class because she colored outside the lines. So in second grade, a friend says, "Come on, let's go color." She's like, "I can't color." To be convinced at
yeah.
7 that you can't color is just so sad to me, and they take that wound for the rest of their life and think, "I just can't do it," or "I can't draw with a straight line." I use a ruler. Don't you, as an artist, use a ruler if you need to make a straight line?
You're right, yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
that as doing it art. I only make stick figures. So what? Stick figures can be expressive, and the abstract expressionist era We all can just start putting color on the paper. We can drip it. We can there's so many ways to
Yes.
be creative. It doesn't have to be just because I like naturalism doesn't mean that's the only artistic form. So there's so much fun to be had in the arts. Or singing, just I'm singing to my grandson. I don't have a gift for singing, but I love to sing, and he's too little to tell me to stop. He loves it when I sing to him. Like,
Yeah.
I got him for a little while. We won't turn on the radio when I start singing, and
Yeah. Yes. I think that as you're talking, I used to be a teacher, and as a profession, I could say I'm still a teacher, but kids that would be like, "Oh, I'm not good at math," because that's what they were told, or we're doing an art project and some of them are like really like shy and are like, I don't know, I'm not really good. And I'm just like, no, as an artist, and it's like we all have our unique gifts to bring to the table. And if we as adults can help encourage that at a younger age, and like you said, watch our words because it's so sad when you hear that things like that example of that second grader and it's no. Let's backtrack here. Let's not even do that in the first place. Let's
yeah.
encourage and help the newer generation feel more confident in expressing themselves through the arts in whatever way they do. Because, like you said, there's so many ways. Like when you said that there's the expressionists and all that, it made me think of modern art museums where there's some weird, an old PC computer screen that's like on its head or whatever, and that's art. There's a white canvas with a dot in the middle, that's art. There's just so many different ways, and when you said earlier that you were discouraged by your art professors because you were being more of a realist as a painter rather than an expressionist, it's like, I know I've seen paintings where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that looks so real," and, like, how do they even do that? And that is just as much talent as somebody that use speckles to create this whole scene, and so we just need to start working on accepting and loving and sharing our gifts, like you talked about your superpower earlier.
Yeah, when I wrote my art history appreciation textbook for my online students, college students, I really was trying to reach them to have an opinion that this is my one chance, my one semester, and then they're making the semester shorter and shorter. My one chance to get them excited about the visual arts. Because we listen to music, we're surrounded by music. So we usually have an opinion very young about what we like, what kind of music really stirs us and moves us. But we don't know anything about the visual arts. We have such an incredible, rich history of Western art. So I focused on Western art. I even focused on local artists because I have a very rich ethnic mix of students. I wanted them to all be able to find somebody and somebody's images that could touch them, that they could relate to and say, you know what? And then we have a local artist here in the Low Country who was a Gullah, lived in the Gullah lifestyle. Well, Gullah is a language and an ethnicity of descendants from slaves who came from Western Africa, and they were given land on the barrier islands of Georgia and South Carolina, and they kept their culture. They do basket weaving, taking the sweet grass. They have dyes. They were fishermen. They grew cotton. They were are really talented in their lifestyle. Jonathan Green came from that world. He went to the Chicago Art Institute, was the first Gullah artist to go get a degree, served in the military, came back to the Low Country. His paintings celebrate life, the colors and the textures and the beauty of the culture he grew up in. It's not all about my ancestors were slaves and they were downtrodden and all the horrible things, which there are artists that do express that angst, which is reasonable, but not for Jonathan Green. It's celebrating the beauty and the family and the church and the world that he came from. And he's still doing it today. And he touches my students so much that in those weeks that I have them, they can find in this 630-page book somebody that they can say, I like their art. And then there's Jean-Michel Basquiat, who shared the angst of being a street kid of multiple ethnicity growing up in Brooklyn. And he started out a graffiti artist. He took that ethnic to painting, and his paintings go for 50 million and above. He lived a short life, but he had a big impact. But his images are full of angst and even violence. And some students respond to that. They said, "Yeah, I like that." So it's really important that you do just look through, go to your local galleries. Every community has an artist somewhere showing their work. Find something you love and bring it and put it on your walls. Make prints. It's cheap to do that. When you can, I have 3 or 4 of Jonathan Green prints on my walls because I love his work so much. So it's so easy to incorporate that. And that's another way to get left brain, right brain connection. Go to galleries. I made my students go to a museum, go to a gallery and take a picture now, share a selfie of you and your face. What did you like in there? What made you stop and look and listen? And as we started this conversation talking about stopping in the moment, even outside in nature, you're engaging left brain, right brain. When you do that, it refreshes you it physically, mentally, and emotionally. When you do that, it's a creative action that everybody can engage in.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And it makes me think of how important it is to expose ourselves to new things and new ideas and new perspectives. And one way of doing that is through different types of art, right? But even when it comes to making a career change, it's okay, let me explore this a little bit. Let me learn more about that person. Let me talk to so and so over here. I'm not familiar enough to know what opportunities are available, right? So let's just start exploring and learning because as soon as you start broadening your horizons, it gets you excited like your students, right? And it gets you seeing things in a different way and then seeking out more of those things, right? And
Absolutely.
adding those to your life by putting a painting on the wall or whatever it might be.
I honestly didn't know that doing all that research was gonna give me a career change. That the result of learning what the experts said about the arts and our brain would just so change me in the direction of my career as art as self-therapy, wellness through creativity, and I'm working on that book, so that'll be my 4th book coming out this year. So it's fun when you do try those new things, who knows where it can take you in your
Yeah,
life.
exactly. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about, as you're writing this book, maybe what are some ways that people can use art as self-therapy? Maybe we might have already talked about them, but
Yeah, and I have a on my website, KarenDeLoachArt.com, I have a 3-part pop-up podcast where I go into more detail. There's
oh,
3
very cool.
20-minute episodes that are on there where I talk about more ideas. I give assignments, and one of them is take a walk every day. Make a point of just strolling. Take a notebook or a sketchbook if you want to, but you don't have to. Take a pet or take a loved one, or you don't. Just make a point of noticing your surroundings. Notice the
Mhm.
sky. Notice the sunset if it's around that time of day. Notice where the moon is tonight, or during the day. Listen to the sounds around you. Utilize your 5 senses because that's what artists do. They're engaging their senses, and that touches us, goes from our right brain into our soul, where we're really finding a depth of peace and joy that combats anxiety and stress, especially if we're coming home after work and we do it then. We're stretching our muscles. We're not doing aerobics. That's something different. It's good for you
Mhm.
too, but this is just something for your well-being, all the way to the depth of your well-being. And it's easy to incorporate it. Or even sing in the car on your way to work instead of bemoaning the traffic, put on your
Yeah.
favorite music and sing along. You'll find out that the stress of the journey is a whole lot less. And cooking, we eat out too
Oh,
much, and
yeah,
that's in the
cooking.
culture. Preparing, figure out what things that your family loves, or even if it's just you, and being prepared for it because it's a lot easier after your work if you have everything you need to cook. All right, I want to
Mhm.
have this and this, but if you have the things already in your cupboard, I got my list. I actually have my list on my phone now. 21st century list maker kitchen grocery list. Think about it ahead of time, what recipes you wanna try or what favorite things you love, then make sure on your shopping list, you get those things, you have them in your cupboard, you have them in your freezer, whatever, so that when you can, you have some of the steps already taken care of. So my husband, oh, we're having this for breakfast, this for dinner. I can't think about dinner. I have to think about dinner now, because this is part of my life is I do love to cook. The point is that these types of things are utilizing right brain, left
Mhm.
brain. Those are habits you get into that actually are good for your soul. It's crazy, isn't it? But it works.
Yeah. And I think, like, about my experience with cooking, I in the past year or so, I've been doing that more, and I do find myself now, "Oh, I wanna do that." Or even starting with a meal kit where they, like, give you all the ingredients and they're already divvied out, but the fact that I, like, put it together myself and I can see the end result and it tastes good, I'm like, "Oh, look what I can do." And it's the same thing with art. You get to see what you've created in the end, and you get to be like, "Oh, look what I." And that's one of the things that I've always loved about art, and I found is something that kind of crosses over into my career. Like, I remember teaching and people are and in the midst of it, it's so difficult sometimes, and you're not sure if you're actually making an impact. And people are like, "Oh, but you just never know how you," and I'm like, "No, but I wanna see it now." There's a part of me, that artist in me that's, "No, I wanna put in the work and then see the end result and be like and be able to celebrate it rather than waiting until it's years down the road and someone says, 'Oh, you did this for me.'" Need some of that more instant gratification, and so I think that's another piece of it too. When you are using those creative skills, you're able to see the end result and it gets you more confident every time. It more quick, like the turnaround is quicker and it gets you to keep doing it because you're like, oh, I can do that. Let me do more of it.
Yeah, I found that as I've started this art membership group. That's one of the things that was really important to me is exactly what you're saying is that we're encouraging one another because we only see each other on the screen this way, but we can show what we've done that week. And some people are doing knitting that I don't know how to knit, but they're just taking these creative lessons and incorporating into whatever creative outlet that interests them. Or one student loves to copy comics, their comic characters or their favorite game characters. That's copying. It's a legitimate exercise. So we show each other. It's a show and tell part of it. And if people are going to be there to encourage you, not to criticize, it's not criticism time, it's sharing time. So show and tell. That's part of what we do as a group together is show and tell. So it's working. It's been working the last 2 months and in growing. So I really, anybody interested, please contact me and join our group. Everybody can join for free to start. And if they like it and want to stay, it's a small fee. So it's really to encourage people to do the art as self therapy.
I love that. I talk a lot about building community and finding like-minded people doing what you're doing. And so this is definitely a great place, finding that community that is supportive, that is encouraging of what you want to be doing in the moment. And I just love that you provide that safe environment for artists and for any, and it, like you said, some people are knitting, some people are doing, like, everyone is like interpreting it in their own way. And yeah,
That's right.
explore.
And I
Let's
call
try
this our
something.
safe space. You create a no criticism zone. This is a safe space because it seems like the older we get, sometimes the harder it is to not say things like, I can't do this or I'm not any good at this. And it can be just excuses, but sometimes it's just I call it that left brain bully, keeping
Yeah.
us down, not giving us the freedom to really explore these new things. So yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that and doing that in your podcast. Podcasters are very creative. You have all the technical left brain things you have to work out and schedules and finding guests. And then you create new material that's never been done before. So this is a beautiful creative outlet that you have in your own life just with your podcasting. So I congratulate you on that.
Thank you. Thanks for that reminder. Sometimes and they don't always think of it that way. But yeah, like we've been talking about, there's so many different ways that we create things, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be art that maybe you're intimidated by doing, right? It's no, what have I created in my life? Because like that's what we do as human beings. We create all sorts of things. So
Right.
look for those things in your life that you've created yourself, that you've already done, and cherish that and do more of that.
My grandmother lived to be 96. She was from Norway, and she didn't paint or draw, but she knit, and she made us these little booties. She would get yarn that was those multicolor yarns, and so there you have these booties, and when you're a teenager, you don't appreciate them. They don't match anything you own, and they're just so goofy looking. But I'm telling you, they became very precious as she got older, and they would wear out. We stitched the bottom, and we still, as a family, say, "Do you still have any more of Lulu's booties?" But so they're a legacy. They're part of our legacy. My father, who was a Marine, career Marine, I taught him to paint and draw in his old when he retired, and he painted, and we give my sister and I paintings for Christmas, and they're precious. Would a museum wanna buy them? No, but you couldn't buy them from me because the sentimental value. It got better and better over the years, and he passed, so these are part of his legacy, are these gifts from him, personal gifts that are part of him, and are they great art? They don't have to be.
Right.
That's part of the joy of it is and that's what Brittany and I are trying to share with you now, is create a legacy in your own life.
Mm, yes. On that note, thank you so much for being here. If anybody wants to learn more from you or get in touch with you, what's the best way to contact you or get into that course or whatever it might be?
Yeah, Karen DeLoach art at gmail.com. That's one way. That's a great way. Or go to my website, www.karendeloachart.com. Pretty simple. I'd love to have you join our group, just even to try it, see if you like it. Want to join us at any stage. We meet Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 times a month. So it's fun. It's really fun. And there's all kinds of skill levels. We're there to encourage. And I do a lesson, I teach. Better if you want to.
Amazing. Thank you again for being here. It was a pleasure chatting with you and reminiscing about some of my artistic days and the things that I know and love and just tapping back into that. So thank you for bringing that today.
You're welcome. God bless you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. If you've loved this episode, leave a review. It helps more women find the show. Feeling stuck in your career? Let's connect. Follow me on social media at Shift Your Day Job or email me at shiftyourdayjob@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Brittany Cates. Let's shift your day job together.